Professor Anthony Glees is a defence and security expert at the University of Buckingham and is with us this morning. We had him on last week and really appreciate your time again from Oxford in the UK. Do you agree with our former Defence Minister Wayne Mapp that this is probably not going to get to blow up more than it already has, that Iran will be quite restrained in its response?
I think if the Ayatollahs are clever, they will leave it where it is, and they'll rage and they'll wave their fists and they'll go on about big Satans and small Satans, but they won't do anything because they cannot properly defend themselves. That's if they're clever. And it will also help them if they think about it carefully, because they want their regime, the Islamic, even Islamist regime, to endure. And if they take on the United States of America, they will definitely be overthrown. However, they may not be clever. They may feel that they have got to do something. And we heard that just a few hours ago, the Iranian parliament said that the Strait of Hormuz should be closed. It can't physically be closed, but it can be made completely unsafe for shipping. And if that were to happen, America, I think, would have to intervene. And I should just make one other point, too. In that clip you played, President Trump said that Iran's nuclear facilities have been totally obliterated. That may well not be the case. It's going to be very difficult to ascertain whether everything has been obliterated. And indeed, we believe that it's quite possible that some of the enriched uranium was moved out of these facilities and stored somewhere else, and that will be a massive search to find out where it is. So clever, they won't do anything. Daft, they will do something, and then that will pull many others in, notably the United Kingdom and France.
Professor, we're going to speak to our Foreign Minister, Winston Peters, in just a few moments, so we will come to him shortly. But just picking up on the Strait of Hormuz, the area that you're talking about, between Oman and Iran, this is very significant. And the reason the US would get so worried about this, it accounts for about 25% of the flow of oil coming out of the Middle East, right? This is significant.
It is significant, and it's of great significance not just to Europe, less so the United States, for the obvious reason they've got their own oil, but it is significant for Europe. It is also significant for China and Japan and South Korea. And what is also very intriguing about what looks like a worsening situation is that the Trump White House has asked China to intervene with Iran in order to persuade them not to close the Strait of Hormuz. So, all of a sudden, it looks as if America is slightly weak. The bottom line, though, is this, that as long as the Ayatollahs are in charge of Iran, they are in charge of uranium enrichment and making nuclear weapons. And at best, we think the Israeli attacks delayed the production of a bomb by about 6 weeks. If America has really obliterated what it says it has, totally and absolutely, that gives them 5 years. But that's not forever, absolutely not. So only by getting rid of the regime can the world, I think, feel safe that this ideological, cruel regime that hangs gays from cranes, that rapes women, all these awful things, and has fomented violence. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and also in the UK with militant and extremist groups. The only way of being sure that stops is if the regime goes. There's no other way forward.
But that then creates, Professor, a whole bunch of other issues, right? And then you have a vacuum, and then you have potentially a can of worms.
Well, there's a lot of people say, particularly in Britain, if you think about the fiasco, the weapons of mass destruction in the war with Iraq in 2003, and the chaos that followed getting rid of Saddam Hussein. And they draw parallels. But I think it's worthwhile pointing out it's not quite the same. For one thing, we know that Iran is enriching uranium. There is a debate as to whether it's to make weapons or for peaceful uses, but they're definitely doing it. And it's not like weapons of mass destruction that we thought they had, but turned out not to have. And then secondly, you could argue that whatever follows in Iran will be better than the regime of the Ayatollahs. And you can say the same in the case of Iraq. Saddam Hussein was a very, very wicked man, the bad side of evil, and that he has gone may be an advantage, may be seen as an advantage. And I think the same reasoning could apply to Iran. Getting rid of the Ayatollahs, reverse engineering the Islamic Revolution of 1979 would benefit everybody. And our British government has said that we don't want to get involved, but we would like to have the fruits of what the Americans and the Israelis have done.